Guild Wars 2 podcast, bringing you the latest in the battle for Tyria. This is The Siege. Prepare for battle.
And you're listening to The Siege, broadcast number 3. This is our third one already? Wow, we're already moving into this thing. Hey, everybody, thanks for coming back and joining us this week. And if this is your first time, don't worry, you don't have far to get caught up. Only a couple of shows. But this week, we're getting so close to launch, we have a really fun and exciting show for you. This week, we're going to talk a little bit about the impact, or the possible impact, Guild Wars 2 is going to have, not only on other games that are currently out, but maybe further down the road. Because Guild Wars 2 has done some really radically different things. Also this week, we're going to be doing some previewing of the dungeons in the PvE world of Guild Wars 2 in Tyria, and we will also be talking a little bit about structured PvP. Now, don't anyone get excited. We're not going to be throwing out any strategies for any of these things yet, obviously, because we haven't been in game long enough, but we're just going to kind of preview it a little bit and have a few discussions about some of the interesting pieces that we've learned about both aspects of the game. So, with that, that's the show. Here is the cast. Joining us this week, she is our femme fatale. She is Tara.
Hello, everyone.
He is our master of PvP. He is Denver Drew.
For those of you listening at the office, listen, just try not to laugh too loud. You look really creepy when you have your headphones in like that.
He is our master of player versus environment. He is Grates.
I always look weird, even when I'm not laughing out loud.
Fantastic. He is our master of lore. He is Cash.
If you're listening at work, put it on the speaker so everybody can hear.
Very nice. That's a good suggestion. Last but not least, he is our lead writer for mog-radio.com. He is Kalindel.
I don't know about you, but I blare it on the bus so everyone can hear it.
On the bus. The short bus? Okay.
No comment.
We'll go. No comment.
No comment.
So there you have it. That's the show. This is the cast. The Siege starts right now. So the game's coming out here really soon, Guild Wars fans. I mean, we're getting really close to the launch, obviously. So, what we want to talk a little bit about this week is impact, because let's be honest, with all the press this game's getting, all the attention and positive attention at that. Because has anyone seen like a negative article on this game yet? Has anyone seen like, hey, Guild Wars 2 really sucks?
Nope.
Not yet.
No.
What I'm seeing instead is I'm seeing constantly people saying pushing the envelope, going different places. I think that the team at Guild Wars is doing some really good interviews right now, especially their lead, the project manager or the lead designer or whatever for the game. So I want to talk about like what's going to be kind of some of the impact that we're going to see on this game. So first things first, let's just start this off. I want to see what everyone's opinion is. Guild Wars 2 launches. What is going to be? What are you guys going to decide is what's going to make this game successful? How many people do you think are going to have to jump in this thing? How long are these people going to have to stay in this thing? Give me kind of a picture of what you guys think a successful launch of Guild Wars 2 is going to look like.
I think the numbers are there. It's pretty evident in beta. When you log into a beta and you're getting lagged because of the number of people in there, and you're having a problem logging in because of queues and whatnot. It's just like any game, but for launch, I think they're going to be just fine with the numbers. The stay power is really going to come in the content, and for me, when I log into a game and I'm overwhelmed immediately, I think Kel was talking about it earlier.
Yeah.
Having just gotten into the game, there's a lot to do. There's a lot right in your face, right off the bat. And if you didn't play Guild Wars 1 or you haven't been privy to a lot of the information, it's a little overwhelming at first. And for me, that's a very good sign. That just means there's a learning curve. There's a lot for me to get used to.
Sure.
I like that.
I feel so bad. I had for those who are very familiar with our other podcast, Over Public Radio, I had a Shamrock moment. I was too busy looking at stuff that I was running into a wall and wondering why I was going through.
Nice. Good old Shamrock. Oh, I miss that guy.
I agree with Cash. I think a successful launch is going to include, not so much numbers. I think the numbers are already there, but I do believe that the content is what's going to be king. I think in these games, content is king always. If you don't have the content, you're not going to keep people, and it won't matter how many you launch with. It's the fact of the matter. You're going to launch with a lot because people are going to be curious. What keeps people in a game is the content, and that's what's most important. So,
Grates,
and I believe they have it in spades.
Grace, do you think the content's there?
The content is definitely there on the PvP side. The dungeons and raiding right now, I think, could use a little bit of work, but we also haven't seen everything. They've deliberately held a lot back so that people can't get into it. So,
They've been sneaky.
Yes, they've been very sneaky, and it's good because if you put everything out there, people are going to play it right now and get through it, and they're going to be like, okay, where's the more? When no one's ready for it, the developers aren't ready, when basically, the game's just come out a month after release. Now, I think there are always going to be people that do that, but I think it'd be more wide scale if you had it in the beta right off bat.
I think it's going to be a little more challenging for someone to power level through the PvE on this with 80 levels.
There's always going to be that partner team of people that will keep playing the one character and take shifts for it to get through it.
Yeah, she's exactly
I've seen
right.
it in other games.
There's always going to be people that power level through everything and push and push and push and then get bored because there's no content. Well, you can only do so much to keep players happy. But I think it's going to be good overall, and it's going to have the content, I think.
Grace, tell me what does a successful launch look like to you, Grace?
The servers staying up during launch is usually a very good launch, especially for a game that goes off of multiplayer, which a lot of the games we're seeing now are. Right. And that's the problem we've been seeing. Servers going down on a launch day is a huge issue because you buy this $60 game, you go home, you want to play, and can't play it. People that take off work to play the game, lose days of work, man, that ruins vacation time. Exactly. I mean, the gaming industry is full of them, but that's a successful launch for any multiplayer game, and that's definitely what Guild Wars 2 is.
So the only thing that's going to make the launch successful is that the servers are up.
Well,
that's an
probably
important part.
The launch successful, yes, because we already see the numbers. I mean, they've already got the numbers for a large-scale launch, which makes it successful to the bean counters, but it's successful to the players and fans for launch is the servers being up and being able to play the game. More than that, and you talk about content being there, gameplay mechanics being there, and whether or not something's bugged. And that can make the successful continuation of the game, but not necessarily the launch.
Okay.
I think that a successful launch carries on beyond just the opening week or two. I think that the real test of how this game launches and its stability as a game is going to be seen about 2 months down the road. Are people back in the starting areas again? Is it full? Because if you look at Star Wars The Old Republic, the lower level zones were dead after a month. There was hardly anyone there. Because everyone just went to the high-end content and was just there. Or they quit. This game, you're going to have to wait and see where it is a month or two down the line before you know how well it launched.
Yeah, I think everybody's got some very good points here, but certainly successful launch day. Let's focus on that first. Okay. All they need to do is have it be error free. They don't need to go anything above and beyond. They don't need to, do anything that's crazy. They don't need to break the mold on how it's done in terms of turning everything on and letting everybody come play. all they need to do is make sure that the servers stay up, the content's available, they fix the bugs, and as we've already seen, these guys keep doing stress tests on this. And they just did another one today that they just sent a Twitter message out, hey, everybody, come play for an hour. We want to stress test again. And I don't know about everybody else, but I know most of us logged on and went and played. So, I think that's how they started out with a bang. Is just make sure everybody can get on and can play. People want to dig into the content. They've been waiting for this game for a long time, and so people are ready to do it. How do they have what is I consider a quote-unquote successful launch? That would be, for me, the first 2 months of the game is your successful launch. Are people still engaged? Are people still playing the same way they were, in the first 3 weeks that they are in the next 3 weeks? Have you continued to engage the people that are really putting time into it and have already gotten to some of the higher level content? Because I firmly believe to get to level 80, it's going to take a minimum of a month. I cannot imagine that you can push through that much content, especially by yourself, because so much of this is based around, hey, let's have everybody play together, that I have to imagine there's still a lot of stuff that's out there. And certainly, I think people will continue to stay engaged. But that's what I would consider a successful launch, is that they still have the level of engagement in month 2 that they did in month 1.
It does look like too that it takes a little while longer to get through levels, because like most MMOs, you start playing and you start kind of ripping through the starter world stuff, and before you know it, you're like level 4, level 5, level 6. Well, on this one, it's like you'll ding level 2 relatively quickly, but getting to 3 takes a little more work than we're probably used to. So that's a good thing too. I mean, I hope that really translates to the some of the elder levels, when it takes a little bit more time, takes a little bit more effort, so people aren't hitting that level cap in 2 weeks like they were in a lot of other games.
It's got that kind of Korean grindy to it, doesn't it?
Yep.
A bit.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, it does a little bit.
The leveling is a little slower. It kind of reminds me of Aeon. Aeon's leveling is a little slower there, too. I don't know. I think you got a point there, Cash. And I think, Diver, you're right. I think if they've paced it out right, that it's actually going to take you a period of time to get to level cap. That's going to be a huge hook for people. I think that's a really good point.
Well, yeah, and one of the things that I've heard a couple of different interviews with folks from ArenaNet, and what they have said is they don't want people to be focused on grinding. They want this to be as grind-free of a game as it can be, and they want the content to be the engaging part of go and do this, and it's not oh man, I can't wait to get to level cap so I can start doing X, Y, or Z. They want big things to be available to people right away. And so that's why you have the open world PvP, world versus world that's available right away, that you can jump into at low levels and still be a part of the group that's going out there and still actually participate and have a contribution, rather than you're just standing up, taking up space. So I think a lot of those things, the strategy that they've gone with for this is totally different than any other game I've seen.
It is, isn't it? Tara, what do you think a successful launch looks like?
Well, I think that the successful launch actually extends to a few months, and it's those levels between 20 and 80 that they'll need to have enough content, and some content that's engaging enough to keep the players interested, with rewards that are worth the fight. Because I've known other MMOs that have done, you go through this big, long, arduous quest, and at the end you get a rusty sword or something kind of, like, okay, that wasn't worth my time. But I'm thinking that also on top of that, like they said, not just that the servers are up, but that they're lag free. So your combat is fluid. So that everything you're doing when it comes to PvP is on time and, just so. So, but I also think that mainly it's going to be a lot up to the community as well, players connecting with each other. And for those who aren't connected with a guild or a group of players yet, that single-player content is going to be extra important until players get acclimated to being in this MMO and make the connections that they need to make to enrich their gameplay experience.
Let me ask you this, guys. Okay, I mean, the way I see it is a successful launch is 6 months. That's how I look at it. especially with an MMO, because it's a living, breathing creature. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. So I want to look at the first 6 months of this game. And my challenge, I think, is to see if, okay, I don't expect everyone who buys this game day one to be there at 6 months. But how many do they lose? You know, we've seen it with other games. That first 6 month period is the make or break period for the game. Do you think the free to play model they have, $60 for the box, no monthly, is going to help them keep players retained, even if there might be some lags in content and things like that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Very much so. Very much so.
And
Yeah,
the reason
absolutely.
being is because when you walk into a store and you're looking at those racks of games, a lot of people that have never played MMOs before look at one of those boxes for some of the other MMOs and they go, "You what? Monthly subscription? I am out."
Right.
You know, they have no idea what that's all about because they haven't invested into a game. So if you're looking for somebody new to the genre, they are looking for a free to play game. One investment. They have the game for as long as they can. They can play online with their friends, play online with other people, and they don't have to pay money in. But yeah, I mean, I'd be the same way if I looked at a box and said, "There's no way I'm paying $15 a month. That's madness." So for that reason alone, you're gonna sustain people.
And what kills me too is when I look at Guild Wars 2, and I don't tell me if I'm wrong here, guys, but the more I've played Guild Wars 2, the more I look at if they would have like actually come out and said, "Hey, you know what, Ivan, we're gonna need $15 a month," I would be like, "Not a problem." Really.
Right.
I would have no issue with that. I mean, obviously they don't, but I would have been like, sweet, I'll cancel my script somewhere else, and we're in. I'm all about it. So,
whoa, save that, Ivan. Hold that thought. Put a pin in it.
Okay.
Because I think we should discuss that.
Let's say this. Let's say Guild Wars 2 launches successfully, okay? First 6 months, this game's just rocking. People are showing up left and right. This game is just building and building. It's not declining. It's growing. At month 6, people are still coming in new. Does this spell the end for the $15 a month subscription?
I think this is not the end of it, but I think that you are starting to see the shift that we've been talking about for a long time, and I think you are starting to see the death rattle of the $15 a month subscription plan.
Okay.
When there's so many options out there and there's so many of these great free-to-play games, it's really tough to make the case as to why your game is worth $15 a month. That's the thing that people are going to have to do now when you release an MMO that's got a subscription. Why is it $15 a month? What makes you so confident in this game? What is it about this game that I can't get anywhere else that I have to pay you $15 a month for? They're going to have to make that case. And if they can't do it, they'll see an exodus. Gamers are very quick to change their minds, and I do. I think this is the first big step that, assuming it is successful 6 months out, 8 months out, it could be the paradigm shift that we've been waiting for.
I think that paradigm shift has already been occurring, though, because you've seen it for a while now. You've seen WoW go to change their demo model to having the first 20 levels free. You have Rift doing the same. You have Star Wars doing the same. This shift has been going on long before Guild Wars 2 has come out. I think that it's a nail in the coffin because it does look like a really good game. It's high quality, and it's free to play. So it's pushing things along and, lighting the fire that's, accelerating this. But I don't think that it's the sole cause. I think that it's just coming out at the right time.
I'm not saying it's the sole cause, Kel, but what I'm going to say is this, and I think you're getting the idea of where I'm coming from. This is really, honestly, probably the first really high-quality free-to-play I've seen launch as a free-to-play. Okay, let's be honest. Lodro didn't start off as free-to-play. It started off as $15 a month. Just about every major free-to-play that I've played has been started as a $15 a month subscription. And now we look at Star Wars, and they're getting ready to go free-to-play. But Guild Wars 2 is launching, and I think literally they're about as close to AAA titles we're going to find right now. I mean, the game looks great. It's polished. It's very well done. Sure, the video story is a little goofy, but if that's the only thing we have to complain about, that's not that bad. So this is really quality game, and if they're coming out for free, this is going to have to affect market. I mean, I don't know. Anybody else? Chime in here. Grates, you got to have something on this.
Yeah, and Guild Wars has always been a really good game title, and it's just always worked very well. And I think you're right. It is one of the main ones that has gone free-to-play and that has always done very well as free-to-play, and that's always been a big selling point of them. and they've got a lot of the community that way. That being said, I do think they're going to take away a lot of the current market from people and make a lot of other gaming companies unhappy. I don't think they're going to take away as many as some people are predicting, but I do think they're going to take away a pretty good chunk.
Yeah, I definitely think that this is the wave of the future, and we're starting to see some of these dominoes get knocked down as we head toward that full free-to-play model with a lot of these big MMOs. And I really think that the way this one is put together, it looks a lot, if not is totally a AAA MMO. Yeah. It just looks amazing in every aspect of the phrase. And when you look at other games that are out there that are starting off with a pay model, and they're moving into a free to play model. I think there's such a stigma there. I think I mentioned it last week, but there's such a stigma there that a game that goes from a pay model to a free to play model, it just looks there is that stigma there that game's failing. So I think a lot of companies are probably going to want to avoid that altogether and just start off with free to play and microtransactions and the option to subscribe so you can get all the content or whatever. But I really think it's the wave of the future.
I think I disagree.
Okay.
I do, because the cost of initial development and support staff and things like that I think that a lot of games will probably start as subscription and then move free to play within 6 to 12 months, like we've seen with Star Wars: The Old Republic.
But see, my whole thing is I think Star Wars: The Old Republic could have gone that way anyway because they had the backing. If you have a bigger company that has that backing right off the bat, they have the money for development and everything. Why wouldn't they start at free to play to avoid that persona later on that the game is failing? Because I hate to say it, but I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at our guild that was thriving and completely flourishing. And as soon as we hit that free to play, as soon as they mentioned that free to play, a bunch of people left. I mean, we're completely restructuring the Old Republic dads right now to try and fit, basically to try and keep up with the climate that's going on in the game right now. So I don't know. Maybe it's just one example out there. Maybe my opinion is a little bit skewed just because I don't know business as well as some of our other cast members do. But that's just what I'm seeing, from a dummy's perspective.
Well, here's my question, though. So when we talk about development and it being very expensive and somebody having to put a lot of money to hire all these people, is it possible that this will maybe change the way that MMOs are built? Is it possible that this maybe, instead of it being something that you knock out over a year and a half, maybe it takes 3 years and you do it with less people and you create more content off the bat that's available right when you launch the game, that you're getting a lot of bang for your $60? That the amount of stuff that's packed into that box, because it took 3 years to put together instead of a year and a half, is significantly higher, significantly better, and much better tested, and we're getting more complete packages when people put this stuff out. I'm wondering if that's not maybe the direction people will go, because it sounds like the team that ArenaNet used to build this took longer period of time and had fewer people than, say, Star Wars: The Old Republic, or coming up here, Elder Scrolls. Elder Scrolls has a huge team, I'm told. So is that maybe the direction that people are going to start heading? Is, okay, we'll spend a little more time on it, we'll put fewer people on it, make it bigger, make it better, and then we'll get everybody's money right off the bat, and we'll more than make up for what it cost us to make it. I don't know.
I agree with Tara. I don't think that it's the end of the subscription MMO because, quite honestly, as long as WoW is out there, people are going to continue to try to make an MMO to try to get some of those WoW dollars. Someone's always going to go out there and try to challenge WoW. I mean, Rift started, trying to challenge WoW with their marketing. You're not an Azeroth anymore and all this other stuff. And so people are going to keep trying to, knock the king off the hill. Why? Because that's just the way people do things. And so, and then plus two, people want to see a return. I know we all remember that when Star Wars came out, they said 500,000 is our break-even line. Well, they have 500,000. They had 500,000, and they still have 500,000, and yet they're still going free to play. And so why they're doing that, there's a whole lot of reasons, and this is not the podcast for that. But I do think that this is not the end. Sure, we'll see a whole lot more free-to-play, but AAA titles are probably going to come out with some kind of subscription.
I don't know.
You guys have to remember that Guild Wars, the first Guild Wars, was also free-to-play.
Mm-hmm.
Now wait a minute, though.
So, what? How does that have any bearing on whether Guild Wars 2 is free-to-play or not?
What I'm saying is that it's not the only free-to-play game that's ever been out there. There have been plenty of other free-to-play games that have been out there that have not had this success that people talk about when you see like the success that Turbine had with Dungeons and Dragons Online, or the success of Lord of the Rings Online, where they increased their revenue by going free-to-play. This is a game that's starting out free-to-play.
Right.
And so I think Denver has a point in saying, yes, it may change the way that games are made as far as going with free-to-play, but it's not really free-to-play if you're buying the content, the other extra content that you want to buy or the cosmetic things. It's just nickel and dime microtransactions that they're counting on people to pay for, to be able to pay those developers and those, voice actors and the artists and everything.
Well, let me dispel this rumor really quickly on Guild Wars 1. Everybody this is the argument that I've been hearing against this, and it's, in my opinion, it's completely invalid, because we're talking about a completely different time period that existed back then, and this was not a game that came out assuming it could compete with the bigger MMOs that were out there. It was not fully fleshed out. It was not nearly the same way that what Guild Wars 2 is it is literally as polished, as put together, and as fully fleshed out as any mass multiplayer online game that's out there today. Has all the features, has all the extra stuff that everybody was looking for, and Guild Wars 1 did not even purport themselves to be that. So I really feel like that's just a disingenuous argument that people keep making to try to say, well, why didn't we move on then? And it's because we're in a different time period now, and people are saying there's just so much more. So I like that they've stuck with that free-to-play model, and I love that they have gone with something that is so much bigger, and it's such a more massive undertaking than what they did before. I really respect it.
Honestly, I just don't see the subscription model lasting anymore. I think we may see a few games coming out with it, but I just don't see it lasting. When you look at just Star Wars, had a huge, wonderful IP that has a lot of love for it. A lot of love. And the story was great. But it tanked. And they're going free to play. And I can't see anybody else having an IP that's that popular to draw in that many people so quickly being able to come up and support a subscription model. They had the backing of BioWare and EA, and it didn't work.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, but EA is notorious for not having. I mean, what MMOs are out there that's EA backed? That they've been like super successful. I mean,
still the point is,
you take BioWare, which is a new company who wasn't really in the MMO space. I think it's unfair to say the game tanked. Yeah, it lost a ton of subscribers, but again, it's over that 500,000 mark, so they are profitable. And
but let's get out of the 500,000 number thing, and let's just get blatantly open and honest with ourselves here. I think that when we're looking at today's market, and we've talked about it, and we've hashed it over a few other times on a few other shows, economically it doesn't make sense anymore. It is and has been stated by many by a couple of developers at ArenaNet that how they saw a subscription-based model was a barrier to entry for a lot of players who normally would have picked up the game had it not been there. And I think honestly that changed, and that's I think the thing. That's where I think the mindset, at least in ArenaNet's changing. I think it's going to affect a lot of other MMOs, especially if this game is successful. Because if it's successful and all they're saying is pay $60 for the box, if you want some of the other funny stuff, grab it. And you're right, Tara. Some of us are going to grab that stuff. Some of us are going to stay away from the microtransactions like the plague. It's just not what we do. But I mean, in the end, it's it's going to have an effect if it's successful, because the whole idea of just having to pay $60 for the box and I get to jump into a fully realized virtual world, it's going to be hard for somebody to come out and say, hey, I know you're able to buy this one for $60 and walk right into it and not have any of its features locked out to you. It's a fully wide open game for you. But we want you to try ours and pay $15 a month. Oh, and you're going to have to buy the box too. Ah, man, this is going to be a hard sell. A much harder sell today, especially if Guild Wars 2 is successful.
And also, I think that, the microtransactions, I hate to point out, but so many of Facebook's games even are making tons of money just because people are using the microtransactions. If it's a true microtransaction, people will not even think about it as they buy, I'm going to buy this hat for like $1. I'm going to buy this for 50 cents. And they keep on buying. And suddenly they realize at the end of the month, oh, wait, I just spent $30 on this. If I'd been on a subscription game, I would have spent half that.
Well, and I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there are some people that do that. But Surtos, let me ask you this, though. I mean, the way I look at a subscription base, and I think this is where when you keep putting numbers out, like we need 500,000 to be that break-even line and things like that, it seems like games with subscription models have to kind of ball and chain themselves to these numbers very carefully, going, okay, if we're not above 500,000, this game's shot. We can't afford to run it anymore. And I think maybe even as companies, they need to start being able to free themselves up a little bit model-wise, so they're not constantly going, okay, we have to have this many numbers or we can't launch, or it's not going to be successful.
The 500,000 really only points to, okay, we need a certain amount of money coming in per month for this game to be successful. And that's pretty much what it boils down to. So when we say free to play, it's really not free to play. Sure, you'll get content. Sure, you'll get the box. You'll get all these things. But what they are counting on is for people to go, like Kel said, and spend $1 here, spend $1 there. Next thing you know, you done spent $30, $40, $50. Oh, crap. I just paid for a whole year's subscription in 1 month because I bought all these things. That's what they're counting on. So it's not really free to play. It's that it's free to play for most people, but not really. Because, and for instance, we'll use Star Wars since we talked about it. You get the story, but after the story, you'll get a little PvP. But after that, you're paying for stuff.
I don't think it's good to compare the Star Wars model to...
Okay, we'll go to Guild Wars 1 then.
Okay.
These guys started out with Guild Wars 1 where it was buy the box, which breaks the whole free-to-play thing because you're purchasing something up front. So it's just like a regular PC game. The only difference is this one is mostly for people to play online with everybody else. So that's the MMO part of it. So it's a PC game that you can spend more money on if you want to, but you really don't have to. And if they do like Guild Wars 1, they might throw some their microtransactions really. If you look at Guild Wars 1, there really aren't that many microtransactions with Guild Wars 1. You pay $19 for the game of the year, and then if you want the other three, then that's another $30. So now you have a $50 game, and basically even now to get the full game is going to cost you basically $50. That's not free to play. That's purchasing.
Okay, now you're getting into semantics, because free to play, and you know it and I know it, that when we say free to play, what we're talking about is an MMO that you play without having to pay a $15 a month subscription. We're not talking about not buying the box. We're not talking about any of that other stuff, buddy. And you know that. You know that. You know that, Papa. You know what we're talking about.
Well, you know.
Now you also you want to get in these. Hold on, you want to get in these little. You want to get in these little word bouts of, well, you're buying the box, so now it's not free to play. Dude, nothing is free to play with the exception of maybe
Farm bills,
some solitaire, and that's
what. But there are some games that are truly free to play. You
like
sign up for them. DDO is truly free to play.
Okay, DDO did not start off as a free to play.
It did not start out, but it is.
That's
now.
what I'm trying to say. What my point is,
I played a game the other day that it's a space combat game. It was free to play. I signed up for it, downloaded it, I started playing it. I didn't really enjoy it, so I stopped. But it was truly a free to play.
But what we're talking about, though, is I'm talking about quality, which this game has. $60 box cover, which is it. That's your price to get into the game. You do not ever have to touch that marketplace if you don't want to. The whole game's wide open to you. Having that in play and having the quality to do it, can't you agree that it is going to have to affect how other people launch their MMOs down the future?
Most definitely, it's going to affect how other people launch their games. It's what's also going to affect how people launch their games. The fact that World of Warcraft is still making oodles and oodles of money, and they have, we have a subscription model with quote unquote microtransactions, because everybody talked about them with going to this pet battle thing, but you know what? They start putting pets on their their store, which they have, and people are going cuckoo and they're buying them, and they're coming back to WoW just so they can do pet battles. So people are going to try to tap into that. There's always going to someone that's going to say, "Hey, we spent all this money developing this game, and we want subscription money, damn it, and we're going to go after it." Whether they get it or not, it's a whole nother story.
World of Warcraft is a little bit difficult to compare, I think, at this point. And don't get me wrong, Sir Tusk, because I do agree with a lot of the things that you're saying. But World of Warcraft is such in a class by itself at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at a game that is 8+ years old, that has not just a great success behind it, but they have word of mouth behind it now. I mean, the entire world knows what the World of Warcraft is just because of the word of mouth and the press coverage and all that stuff and all the stuff that comes along with it.
Right.
So it's a little bit difficult to compare, a game that's starting at X's and O's like Guild Wars 2 that's just getting ready to launch, and the freaking 800-pound gorilla that sits in the room that nobody's been able to topple yet.
But people do it all the time. Hence the reason why Star Wars is going free to play right now. Because it was heavily compared to the 800-pound gorilla. A fair comparison? No. But the fact is somebody's going to do it. And again, they started out. We spent $200 million developing this game, and damn it, we want some subscriptions. And they got them.
Now listen, if I can say something that I think we all agree upon, and maybe this can be a nice end to this piece.
Yes.
Mog Radio quick tip: if there is a lifetime subscription option, that game will be free to play within 6 to 12 months, so you shouldn't buy it.
Very nice, Denver. Very nice. I concede your point, sir. I'm done.
Yeah.
I want to just say this. The problem I think the subscription model has today is the problem that we saw with Star Wars: The Old Republic, which was this. They launched the game, and as a consumer who has to pay $15 a month plus the price of the box for the game, the expectation was to be at the same point at launch where World of Warcraft is 8 years old. And no one is going to be able to do that. So many people have tried. Everyone has failed miserably at it, and it just seems to me that the $15 a month now is just it has become a trap, and that I think companies are going to have to start really rethinking on how they launch their games, because what's the best way to compete with World of Warcraft? In my opinion, don't compete with World of Warcraft. I mean,
Agreed.
Let them do what they're going to do. All right, so let's talk a little bit. Let's do a little preview. Let's talk about structured PvP in Guild Wars 2. Now, to be honest with you, we talk so much about this open world PvP. I don't think we give enough credence here to the structured PvP and just how cool this little system is. And I don't know. I think it's just as accessible as world PvP. I don't know. Am I wrong on that?
Not at all. Not at all.
So let's take a little quick peek at it. What about structured PvP right off the bat grabs anyone's eyes?
5 versus 5 ladder competition grabs anybody's eyes right off the bat.
Yeah,
it just sounds epic, and the fact that you can get rewards for it and levels for it, all within that one system, sounds rad.
I like it. I like that too. I have to agree with you. I mean, I think that so many, you look at PvP systems and MMOs, all the way, World of Warcraft, I don't care what you're looking at, but you get in those arenas and you're just, or those little, those arena style, I guess, if you will, or Warzone style PvP matches, And, sure, there's a gear grind here or there. But in the end, you're like, okay, after you get all the gear, what's the point of doing it? And I love this tournament system. I don't know if anyone else does too, because I like how many sources it can come from. You can have, pickup tournaments, which is single elimination for 8 teams to join, just randomly. The monthly ones that require an amount of qualifier points from the pickup tournaments to join them. The yearly ones, which are these grand tournaments, and then player-run tournaments, so we, the community, can make our own tournaments. I mean, I think that's just absolutely nuts. You can just go ahead, log in, join a tournament, and off you go.
The most brilliant piece of what you just said, and the one with the most implications, is player-run tournaments. Yeah. That's huge because you can do whatever you want. If you allow the community to create content like that, right, they will. And they'll make it something stupid. It'll be like 100 teams, and then we're going to bring it down into 2 people, and whoever wins gets a million gold or some nonsense. Right. It's such a great idea, and I love it. I love it. You told me this earlier, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You're actually going to let people do that? Yeah, the more that you let people create content within the environment, the better off you're going to be, and I think that sounds tremendous. And structured PvP, let's be honest, for PvP people, this is great. This is great. Let's cut out all the geared nonsense. Let's cut out all the level nonsense. Just put everybody out there. You've got your skills. Are you better than the person across the space from you on the other end of the keyboard? That's what people want to know. That's ultimately what PvP was supposed to be. Yeah. Are you better than the person across from you at the character that you're playing? Right. And they're letting you do that. And of course, all of the structure stuff, the 5v5 ladders. Yep. That just helps facilitate. It's beautiful.
Terry, you've played a lot of war zones in your history. I mean, does this structured PvP kind of look like something, I don't know, even more fun with all these tournaments and all this other fun stuff going on?
Not just that, but it's fairly dynamic in itself where you could have different strategies. So it's not just get out there and beat the crap out of each other, but you can have an actual strategy of taking over trebuchets or getting something to bomb the players that are fighting below, like a flying dragon.
I love this hot join play option too, which is what I used when I was in there last time. You just queue yourself up and you'll get put into a random team of 5 people and you just get thrown into it. Doesn't usually go very well if you're in against another organized team. It actually goes very poorly, to be honest with you. But it's fun though, just to get in there, dive in there, and allow you just to come in case you can't put that team together. And you know what I find funny about this system is, and tell me if I'm wrong, you see things like other games like will have ranked war zones where you have to have 8 players join in order to pull it off. And this one says, nah, just join in and you can do a tournament. I kind of like that.
Yeah, and it said that you could do one player, versus one player, all the way up to 10v10.
Yeah.
This is what excites me the most about watching, what the choices are going to be in the game for being able to do this. And then also you join that with the fact that the folks at the Mog Nation have a serious gambling problem to begin with.
Yes.
There's already sports books set up. Denver's already got some fantasy leagues set up for different stuff. So given that nature, period, we're going to have several tournaments going on just within our community. So if you're interested in any of this kind of stuff, come over and join us because we are going to have a very active PvP section.
Well,
and this is going to be a big part of it.
And let's be honest, Cash. I mean, this is the Siege. We're not going to be sponsoring a monthly tournament in game for everybody on the server or whoever wants to join it, and we'll have prizes. We'll do that.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll do that once a month. I have no problem doing that. I think that'd be a blast to run. Grates, you've ran a lot of this. You've always had a lot of really cool opinions on PvP. There's one point on here that I've read that the structured PvP servers are not tied to a specific world. From the lobby, you can actually get teamed up or against players from other servers. So is that going to be a kink in this armor, or is that still going to work? Because of the tournament system.
It's probably going to work a lot better because you're always going to find different people and different skill levels. So it's definitely going to make it easier to test out to see if you are the best. It's going to make it a little more difficult, though, to fight against certain people. Like if you're looking to roll against the people on your server in general, that's going to make it a little more difficult there.
Yeah, I agree with that, with the exception of maybe a player-run tournament where you're limiting who comes into it. But yeah, I get it. Yeah, you're not going to be able to slug it out specifically against people on your server. But isn't that kind of a better idea, though? Because, this game seems to really want the server to come together as one big community to fight other servers, doesn't it?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a better idea overall, and I like the way they're doing it. It's definitely my preferred way of doing PvP, and usually of doing dungeons, but it can ruin a community in the game if you do dungeons the same way, but we'll get to that one. Just like Denver. But, right. Yeah, I think it's always good to have a large group of people to pull from in PvP.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there is. Sir, tell us what are your thoughts on tournament PvP so far?
Well, I think it's a great idea. The fact that this game is as Denver said, leveling the playing field is not about what type of gear you have. It's not about, how long you've played. It's about purely if you are good at playing your class. And so with this structure, with the ability to just jump in to any, jump in the game, say, hey, I want to play in a tournament.
Right.
But I'm by myself. I don't have 4 other friends. Jump in, as Tara said. So I think that's awesome. It kills a lot of the problems with current PvP in games.
Right.
Because it's not about, racing to the end to get the best gear, because then you get face rolled simply because, Johnny, I don't have time to do anything else but play video games, has the best gear in the game. I spent all day playing this game, or I'm somebody that's part of a guild and I got all these, awesome friends that sit here and help me, grind this out so that I can have the best gear in the game. Right. And then you come up against me and I face roll you simply because I have 3,000 or 4,000 more hit points than you do, and there's no possible way you can get past my resilience.
Right.
Yay, I'm super. In this particular case, we're all of same and equal level, and so I expect to get face rolled quite a bit. And that's just the bottom. But I think I'm going to have a blast while playing and learning my class and learning how to play, learning PvP versus what we currently have with the games that we play.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think that's really valid points. What I was just looking at, too, was the PvP rewards. They have 11 different ranks of PvP rewards in this game?
No
11,
way.
Yeah, that's
11 ranks. Are you kidding me? That's a pretty big grind. I don't know, Cal, what do you think?
Yeah, but frankly, you need something for people to grind towards if they're not going to be getting more gear to improve their PvP specifically.
No, it was pretty impressive, though, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to trying it out.
I am, too. I'm looking forward to getting Rabbit Rank. Rabbit Rank. That's a great name. And then everything's named. Rabbit Rank, Deer Rank, Dalyak Rank, Wolf Rank, Tiger Rank. I don't know, Dever, do you like a big grind for gear?
Look, if you're having fun, it's not a grind.
There it is.
And when it comes to PvP, if you're not having fun when you're working towards something, you're probably not going to like whatever that PvP is, because the game's not going to change whenever you get the shinier looking. Especially with this, because it's all based around skill and not based on armor. You're just getting a different look, really. You're getting shinies, and so if you want the one where the sword that you have that looks like the needle. Moves to a big flaming sword that you need to have 2 hands to carry because you got enough points to do that. That's awesome. And I've always said, as long as the stats are better, that's great. Otherwise, I don't care about it. But when all the stats are the same, that makes me want the shiny one even more, because you can go, look at what I did. I spent all this time and I got a stupid sword that's on fire. This is awesome. And people go, okay. And then you still get in and you battle as normal. It's great. I don't think it's going to be a grind. But should it be, I would be happy to grind through it.
I love this ranking system. It's really nice. Ranges of ranks are associated with various animals. Chests purchased from the glory vendor for each rank have a chance of containing a finishing move that reflects the rank's animal. That just sounds hilarious to me.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
What was that again?
Yeah, let me read it a little slower, and let's all turn our ears on.
I was like,
so let's go through. Let's go through the ranks.
Believe what you said.
The ranks are associated with animals. So rabbit rank, deer rank, Daliak rank, wolf rank, tiger rank, bear rank, shark rank, phoenix rank, and dragon rank. Ranges of ranks are associated with various animals. Chests that are purchased from the glory vendor, that's the PvP vendor, for each rank have a chance of containing a finishing move that reflects the rank's animal. So let's say I get the rabbit rank and I purchase that chest. There's a chance I will unlock a finishing move that's like a rabbit move.
What do you do? Hump them to death?
I don't know. Maybe you just do the double leg kick or something and just send them flying or something just bizarre. But I mean, doesn't that just sound like interesting fun?
I don't quite know if that sounds like complete fun, but it definitely sounds interesting.
Dude, it sounds magical. Are you kidding me? They basically took the best part of Mortal Kombat and were like, all we care about is the finishing move. Let them have finishing moves. Yes!
What's the deer rank? You just stare at someone for a while.
You run away at a very fast clip.
I mean, seriously, you guys, I mean, obviously they'll probably get the ram, the horns ramming people with that. The wolf, I don't know, that's probably just mowing somebody up. The tiger, claws, I don't know. But I don't know. I think it's hilarious. I think it's cool. I think it's definitely something different to earn in PvP. I earned a finishing move today. I mean, really? That's better than a freaking that's better than wristbands. I don't know. That's just me. Call me nuts.
I definitely
so 1 to 9 is
move would be nice.
Rabbit rank.
Yes. There's 89 different ranks, or 89 different levels of rank is what I'm seeing right now. And each 10 ranks associates itself to an animal. So 1 through 9, your rabbit rank. 10 through 19, your deer rank, stuff like that. Isn't that interesting?
It is, and we're all sitting here going, WTF.
Yeah, I know. Well, no, that's cool, though. I like that because, you know what? Introduce me systems into PvE and PvP that make me sit there and pause and go, what? You know, this sounds absolutely ridiculous. Diver gets it. He loves it. He wants a Mortal Kombat finishing move where he's a rabbit. Who doesn't?
What's a Dalyak, anyway?
I have the faintest clue.
No. I'm sorry. It's a Dalek. That's a Dalek.
What's a Dalek?
Exterminate.
Exactly. That's what you do.
I turn into a one-eyed robot.
You turn into a Dalek and you yell exterminate, and your foe dies. Just like the rabbit is not just any rabbit; it's the Monty Python rabbit, and it flies at them and pulls the.
All right.
Big sharp pointy
rabbit
teeth.
move.
Now that'd be funny. Let me ask you guys this question: games launching with 3 maps in one mode. Is that enough, or do you think they're going to need to be aggressive in adding to the structured PvP to keep it alive?
I think as long as it works right off the bat, I think they're going to be good for a while.
Okay.
I don't know. I think people get if you play PvP enough and you do it, it's like playing the PvE content. If you rush to the end, people get bored. And so this could be a situation where they don't have enough in there and people get bored. I'm not saying that they are. I'm just saying that it's possible.
Will a tournament grind be enough for that, though? To kind of maybe save that a little bit? Because it's not necessarily... I'm not in there to win the map. I'm in there to get points so I can get into the next monthly tournament.
That'll be a big...
it's possible.
That'll definitely help.
Yeah, that's an incentive. To people that really like structured PvP and people that were big into Arena and World of Warcraft and stuff like that, that's a huge draw. I mean, it's a draw for me. I can't wait.
I mean, either.
And you know, again, more time you have working with your team, better you're going to be. And if you can get into that next set, it just puts you on a different level. And when you have something that is... Nobody has attempted to have a structure this big. Nobody, as far as I know, nobody has ever attempted to have a structured PvP that can ladder up as far as these guys are talking about. And that's really an accomplishment. And if they pull it off, I mean, I know that everybody doesn't like talking about it, but could end up esport.
Oh, these tournaments, yeah. I mean, you can get nutty with this thing. I don't know. Who plans on playing some tournaments in this game?
Obviously me.
Yeah,
I'm
I'll try it out.
I'll be playing MOG tournaments for sure.
Yeah, I think the majority of us will probably jump into one tournament just to see it for once. You know, just to kind of check it out.
We're talking Texas Hold'em, right?
No, we're talking PvP, structured PvP tournaments. Yeah,
but that's the thing though, is that's the other beautiful thing about letting people make their own tournaments is if you never want to be in a tournament, you're like, I don't want to do that. But you want to compete with your friends in your guild. It opens that up for you, so you can have all the fun of being in a tournament and playing and competing, and have that fun victory when it's one-on-one at the very end. And, you took him out, he ran out of juice, and you stabbed him in the heart or whatever. However the thing ends, you can have all of that fun, but it's within a safe group of people that no matter who wins or loses, everybody's going to be smiling and walking away talking about it, laughing about it at the end of the day. And I think that's awesome too, because a lot of people, if you're not a PvP person, you're probably not going to get into structured PvP. You'll do the world PvP, which is you absolutely should, but a lot of people are going to look at structured and go, I still don't think so.
I think it's one of those systems, though, and this is what I'm going to encourage our listeners is, man, you guys got to look into this, because I think structured PvP is going to be one of the best-kept secrets in this game. I think you're right. I think a lot of people are going to be turned off by just by the name of it to begin with. Like, we have to be in teams and this. I don't know if I want to do this. But I guarantee you there's going to become like this word-of-mouth outcry from that segment of the community going, dude, you have got to check this insanity out. Because I bet you there's going to be a lot of people that jump in it and just have a blast. I don't know. I just see this being a potential of a lot of fun, let alone the fact that there is currently an unnamed underwater PvP map that is undergoing in-house testing. Really?
Yeah.
I know, that makes me so excited.
Let's get outside the box here. Underwater map. Come on. Thank you so much. That is great. I mean, that's very exciting. I don't know. Any closing thoughts on structured PvP? I think, honestly, as a system goes, I think this is one of those things that I think it's going to be one of those things that like players get into more like in that 6-month mark. It's like, okay, I've got through all the PvE and I've been doing the world PvP a lot. Well, why don't I try this structured PvP thing out? And I think people are going to get hooked on it pretty quick.
I don't like structured PvP.
Yeah, I know. Well, have you ever thought about trying it just to see, though? Because they do a lot of different stuff here.
I'm going to try it.
I haven't been able to try this one as of yet.
Well, now, wait a minute. Again, to my point, if it was a structured PvP that was a Mog Nation event, would you sign up for that versus going into the main tournament bracket where you're fighting everybody?
Oh, I would definitely sign up for that versus main tournament bracket. I'll tell you that right off the bat.
And that's it. And the truth shall set you free. That's all they needed to do. I got to tell you, that's the biggest thing that we've talked about today. It will be the biggest thing moving forward in terms of how that structured PvP is going to work and how much fun everybody's going to have with it. Mark my words, that is enormous.
Talk about design elements, because I think one of the reasons that Guild Wars 2 is going to allows you to pay $60 for the box, doesn't want a $15 a month thing for a $15 a month subscription, is because I think they found some ways to save some serious money on design. So I want to throw this around the room a little bit. What design elements that we see in Guild Wars 2 do you think are going to affect other MMOs down the road?
World versus world
definitely.
PvP. Definitely. Okay. That's open PvP. Probably along the lines of Dark Age of Camelot, to be
Absolutely.
honest.
I agree with
a lot of people hold up Dark Age of Camelot as the holy grail of open world PvP.
And it was. And
rightly so. And so Guild Wars 2 is going after that in a huge, huge way. And I commend them for it because nobody's really done it. So it could be
no one's ever done it successfully. No, you're right.
Well, right. Yeah, it could definitely be a game changer, and other games are going to have to look at it.
Okay. Grace, what did you say?
I said the world versus world is 2, and pretty much for the exact same reason that Sertas said. Okay. It's just one of those things that people are out there looking for. And if you don't got it, then you're going to have an issue, especially going forward. Because that's going to draw in a ton of untapped customers that all these games have left out in the open.
Sure.
I think there's a few things. I think their entire PvP structure, the world versus world and the structured PvP, are both game changers on a very, very big level. At least for a guy that's played PvP in every single game and has always had issues with the way that they've structured it. Okay. So I think the structured is certainly a big change from what most games started with, which is get the best gear and you're going to face roll anybody that you're up against that doesn't have the same gear. It's not based on skill. It's based on how long you've been playing and how much gear you've got, which drives me crazy, always has. And then the world versus world, obviously all of us love that and have like, it's the most epic PvP that some of the most I've ever experienced in any game. But the other things that I think that they've done a great job with is getting rid of the tag a mob to kill it and allowing everybody to attack anything and everybody gets credit for it. That is so huge for getting rid of a lot of animosity that people have against each other and having all these areas where you're like, oh my God, I'm going to have to sit here for an hour and a half and farm because there's 40 people trying to kill the same 3 things. Nope. Don't worry about it. Everybody can kill it. Everybody gets credit for it. That's a big game changer as well, I think. And it's something that other game companies that are producing, new MMOs should take note of because that's a big deal. And I think that helps build community rather than keep community apart.
I think besides the big things that we've already talked about, the world v world stuff, that's obvious to me. But some of the other things, some of the smaller things that I think could add up, just like Denver was saying, are, for me, this is one of the first games that I've played that truly has a living, breathing world. So for me, I mean, the first time that I walked into one of the bigger cities, I was so overwhelmed with all the stuff that's going on around you, the conversations that are taking place around you, the NPCs, the grand scale of everything. I know I've talked about the map before, probably ad nauseum. The map is incredible.
I knew it. I knew we were going to the map. I was like,
hey, we're gonna do an entire siege just called the map.
Right. And you know what? I'm a simple dude. I'm telling you, stuff like that means a lot to me. And then all the way down to the nuts and bolts of this thing, but the stylized art. Yeah. Whoever did the art or whoever runs the art deserves a gigantic hug and kiss from whoever they want. But I'm just saying.
Okay.
I love the stylized graphics. I love the hand-painted art in everything. And, when something pops up on the screen and when you go into a new zone, it kind of like paints itself on the screen. Those are the little things that catch old Cash. I love that stuff.
Well, tell me if I'm right or wrong on this, guys. And Calterra, whoever wants to jump in on this, I don't care. But I'm looking at the 1 through 10 world, PvE-wise. And what I see when I jump in the 1 through 10 PvE world pretty much is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 public quests, and then I've got a storyline quest that I follow through to certain little areas, and I do certain little instances there. My thought to this is, how much money did they save on writing time, on development time, and on testing time by just having those 5 public quests in that area? Rather than, okay, we need to write 20 different little go and kill 5 wolf tails and stand in line. I mean, how much money do you think they had to save on that?
I don't know.
Probably a pretty much ton.
When you look at it, it's not just 5 quests because you have 3 different outcomes for your character and what the thing they regret most. And then 3 possible outcomes on how they were raised. So that gives you 9 different ways that your story could go as a player. Going 3 squared. So
I didn't know anyway, I didn't know there was going to be math.
Yeah,
you're confusing me.
Here's the thing. I couldn't tell you how much money they saved because frankly I don't know what their development costs were. I know that QA is expensive, so they would have had to test that in every possible way to do those at least once.
Right, but my thing is this though. To say so we have that for the story quest. Well, what if then? I mean, but my thought is it's not the story quest world that I'm worried about. I'm thinking where they save their money is just in the general questing area where we level up to get to the next piece of the story, it's all public questing areas. So you've really got 5 little quests sitting right out there in the middle of the world that everyone goes and joins together and kills, and it's got 2 or 3 different end results to it. And it really is, I think, a good exercise in designing to maximize the content that you have, rather than constantly trying to pile more content into one little small space and have us all competing to complete it.
Sure, absolutely. Not just for the questing, like the experience, but also the loot and the credit.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that had to cut down development time by a ton. Just in the initial stage, in my opinion. I don't know. Kel, what you got?
I have no idea how much they saved, but I do know that I really liked it. I mean, I was glad I finally got to get in and try it out, because when Rift came out, I really loved their Rift events. I thought, that's great. It makes the world feel awesome. And then after the 7th time the same Rift has opened up, I was like, oh, God, please no.
Yeah.
But this was actually interesting. And I am someone who loves doing raids. And being level 3 and running with like 20 other Asura at this one thing, I was like, this is like raiding Hogger, and wow, I love it.
Yep.
I don't know about cutting down development time, though, because they announced Guild Wars 2 back in 2007. Mm-hmm. That's quite a while.
So let's say
they've been working on this for a long time.
So let's say this. If it doesn't cut down development time, it probably cuts costs in the fact, like Denver was saying, this is a much smaller team than what developed Star Wars The Old Republic. Possibly.
What I feel like is that it gives a lot more respect to the players of the game, to let them play it. And not force them to group up or have to be in a big guild or anything like that. Yes, there are perks that come along with that, but you're not set with a barrier, and that's what I feel like Guild Wars 2 team has done, is remove a lot of the barriers that players face in MMOs.
And do you think people who are designing MMOs today are going to have to take that into account when they're designing their games now?
I don't know if they have to, but I really hope that they will.
Right, okay.
Because it's one of the things that really irritates me as a player. Because I tend to be a bit more of a lone wolf. Actually, joining Minions of Grunt, this is the first time I've ever joined a guild before the game was released. So this is a new thing for me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I've always been the type to kind of quest alone a little bit. Even when I've been in guilds, just kind of... I just enjoy that alone time. Maybe that's because I'm an introvert in real life. So...
Sure.
I don't know. But it seems to bring what I felt when I was playing the game is it brought a lot more enjoyment for me. I didn't feel like I can't get these types of points because I have to be in a big group and I have to find, have a group finder implemented in the game, which doesn't work half the time, that kind of thing. I'm feeling really happy about the release of Guild Wars 2, even if I do seem a little bit critical about some things, like voice acting.
Yeah, you're not gonna let that go, I don't think. So
sorry.
We're just gonna have to let it go. Certas, do you see any development things that they've used in their development process that other people are they're gonna want to try to look at or mimic even down the road in MMOs?
Well, I think I agree with you when you say they saved a ton of money in their development costs, because instead of creating 15, 20 quests for 5 or 6, 7 different classes, you just got 5 quests. So, people have to write that stuff and people have to animate it and somebody has to voice act it badly, as Tara would say. So I think they've saved, quite a bit of money in that regard. So as far as their development, I think people really should look at, these games as far, look at the story. It's not really so much, I guess, about story, because this, you look at Star Wars, it had a ton of story. And I know I keep going back to it, but it did. It had a crap load of story, and it was good story for the most part. So as far as their development of it, I don't know if people need to really pay attention. It is good to have smaller teams because you keep the costs down. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's the biggest lesson. You don't have to have a mega huge team of people to put out a quality MMO, and they have proved that with Guild Wars 1 and with Guild Wars 2.
And they put the money to good use with that map tutorial and that had good voice acting. I loved it.
Grace, do you see the public questing be probably becoming more predominant if this game's successful?
I do see a lot of people joining in quests together with other people versus just questing alone, because it's going to bring those people together, and it's definitely going to make things a little bit easier to do. But there are those people like Tara that like to solo a lot and not like to wait on people. So I don't think that part's ever going to go away either.
You don't?
No.
I don't think so. Not for those of us with jobs and families, so we're logging in on odd hours or whenever we can get a few minutes or half an hour to play. I mean, who in here doesn't have that type of situation that occurs, right? So, yeah.
I don't.
Well, there we go.
Excepting Kel.
One Descender.
You know.
But in the end, I mean, I have to agree with Denver, too. I think the world versus world PvP, the way they have it structured, people are going to have to start paying attention to that. And they're going to have to pay attention to the structured PvP, the way they have that going on, of, you know what, forget gear and go more for skill. I think it's smart. I think that's smart design. I think, you know, I mean, after playing in an implementation, it's more challenging, actually, I find, because everyone's got to think. You cannot sit back and get comfortable in the fact that I've got the best gear, so I'm going to just walk up and just not have to think about tactics anymore and mow people down.
And I know it's not something that will probably catch on in other games, but I really like your abilities are based on what weapons you have equipped. Like I was looking for other weapons to attach today when we were playing for an hour, mind you. I was like, I know if I get the right combo, I'm going to get that Ring of Fire. And sure enough, I put the dagger on and I was like, yes!
And that is a lot of fun, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Well, I think
it's silly. I know it's silly, but I just think it's awesome.
I think you hit a nail on the head though, too, Denver. Are people going to have to start paying attention to maybe slimming down the hotkeys a little bit? Because I mean, you know, we look at the standard traditional MMO; they've got 2 to 3 rows of hotkeys of abilities by the time you hit max level, and with Guild Wars 2, you're going to have 5 at a time.
Yeah, and I think it still allows you to have a lot of options, especially I was playing on my Elementalist Ashura this morning, and you got 4 different trees of magic, and you have to unlock all 5 abilities in all of those trees. And then if you go underwater, you have to do the same thing with 4 trees underwater, unlocking all 5 abilities yet again. And every time you change weapons, you know, to something that's different that you haven't played before, you have to. I think it still keeps it interesting, and I'm interested to see how the player base reacts, though, because most people in MMOs are used to, oh, I got a new level, maybe I got a new ability that's more powerful, that looks different, and that I know that keeps people engaged. You know, I mean, in World of Warcraft, you know, as soon as you got a new big explosion that you could fire off, you were out there blowing people up with it. And Star Wars, as soon as you were able to, you know, force leap into somebody, you were doing it. Like, it's just, those were kind of the things that drove people before. I'm interested to see if everybody likes the system as much as I do.
Yeah, me too. But I think that there's going to be a lot of things that I think down the road you're going to see hints of it, or other people's versions of it show up in other games. Because I look at the design of this game and I just see things that are it's just too smart, in my opinion. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But it just seems so streamlined and accessible. I think that people are going to have to start looking at trying to make their games even more accessible to newer players.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's something that it took WoW a long time to learn, and they're just now starting to do. You spend all this money on a development team to make all this content, and then, 1% of the player base has seen the content. Well, when you want 80%, 90% of people to see what you have toiled over to make and you know, spent all this time and money on. So yeah, games are definitely going to have to be more accessible to starting players.
All right, let's talk a little bit about dungeons in the game. We've been alluding to them every show we've done. We need to finally just sit down and do a quick preview on them. Obviously, we're not going to be able to give you any strategies or tips that are going to work best for you because we haven't run them ourselves yet. But, you know, let's take a look at dungeons. Grates, can you kind of break down what makes dungeons a little different here in Guild Wars 2 than it does in other games?
Dungeons are a little different because you don't necessarily have those roles of tank, DPS, healer that are always set in stone.
Right.
You have DPS as the main thing, but your DPS can also, at a click of a button, switch to a healer.
Yeah.
Or your DPS, if the tank dies, can switch to a tank suddenly. And so it makes for a lot of fluidity in the dungeon roles. And, if someone's able to, die and then switch really quickly, you can keep on going, res everybody up, and off you go again. So it's really going to make a huge difference in that regard, and that's totally changing the structure of how dungeons used to be.
Yeah, I guess we're going to see a lot of you can shift roles. So, like, if one of your guys drops, man, you can actually say, okay, one of your DPS goes tank and starts pulling aggro and just do this, and that. That'd be absolutely crazy. You know what? Tara, can you talk to us a little bit about the differences between story and explorable modes?
Well, after you finish the dungeon, you'll actually be able to go in and explore. And they have friendly camps set up around the dungeon where they have a presentation of like 3 different problems that the players could have to solve. Like maybe the boss is threatening to collapse part of the dungeon, that kind of thing. So it lets you come back into the dungeon. It doesn't shut you out for like a certain period of time like you might see with other MMOs.
I find this interesting because, I see all these level things when I look at the dungeons here. It's like, the first dungeon you go into at level 30, and then the explorable mode you'll want to do about 35. And you got 3 different scenarios in there. So, like they've talked about before, there's 4 different ways to run this dungeon. Each dungeon, there's 8 dungeons. So there's about 32 different iterations of PvE dungeon content out there. That's absolutely huge.
Yep, and there's no set way to clear a dungeon. You could have one strategy that'll work when you go through one time, and things might change for you the next time you go through.
That's just nuts.
Yeah. And what they don't want is people just putting out like strategy guides and things like that of this is how you clear it and this is the way to do it. So that's why they changed things up on the players.
The one thing that they fail to realize, there's always going to be some strategy guide on how to beat a dungeon, and even if it's more of a general strategy guide than a set in stone one, it's going to be out there, but I think it's really going to keep everything on a random basis and make it much more difficult to design them too.
Well, and let me tell you that from the PvP perspective, I'm actually so stoked that this game is set up this way because I will be doing PvE. I will be doing dungeons. I will be trying out all of this content because I don't have to gear for PvP. So I can just gear for PvE. And I can go and actually do these things that I would have touched. Look at Star Wars. I hardly touched anything in there.
Yep.
World of Warcraft, I stopped raiding as soon as I could. And, it was too big of a time commitment for me. But in this game, it sounds like a blast. And based on the information that we've all looked at, they look really good.
Yeah, I really like this. I think this is a really fresh way of getting a lot of bang for your buck out of your content again. Hey, let's do this dungeon, and then let's go ahead and throw 3 more iterations of this dungeon together. And that way, it seems like they're saving a lot of time. So I'm not making 4. I can make 4 dungeons out of 1 dungeon. It seems like it seems like a really sensible design. Cash, what are your thoughts?
I think it makes a lot of sense to do things a little bit differently and have a lot of options. So I think it's going to help the replayability big time because people are going to be farming these things like crazy. That's what we do. We're MMOs.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with that. I think they're going to get farmed a lot. I like the fact is just the 5-player max team. Is that going to turn some raiders off, or is that going to actually make people a little bit more apt to run them?
It's going to make you tight. It's going to make you have a tight little group that you run with. It's going to be easier to fill groups if you have somebody who's, who can't make raid or something that night. It's going to be a lot easier.
Yeah.
So, I agree. Having small teams is a lot easier. When you're trying to direct, say, 30, 40, 50 people, it's a lot like herding cats. It's not as much fun, at least for the raid leader.
Herding cats.
So here we go.
It also raises the skill level of everybody there has to have their skill level where it needs to be in order to support their teammates.
Absolutely.
So
one other thing I'm excited about is obviously the reward system. Cal, let's talk about this for a second. Completing a dungeon awards tokens. It seems like every single system in this game has a currency attached to it for you to buy items. weapon items. You know, it seems like everything that you do in this game, you can earn weapon and armor sets. I mean, so like, how many weapon? I mean, we're looking at tons of weapon and armor sets here, Cal. Do you like this like kind of currency system they have going on in this game?
Yeah, I think it's smart. I mean, really, having everything rely on just random drops. Mm-hmm. Well, Classic is really annoying for those of us who are going for a specific look. I mean, I practically treat my characters like they were Barbie dolls. I'm a grown man saying that, but
practically,
I do.
I thought I caught you combing your one's hair the other day.
Barbie dolls that kill.
Is nappy. It needed to be right.
Oh man!
Wow! Yes. Oh my god! Cal, are you a brony?
Horrible.
Are you a brony, Cal?
No, I'm not a brony.
Are you petting them right now?
That's just horrible.
I am not petting them.
That's a disturbing
right now.
visage.
Derailed.
No, I think it's a smart idea just because of that. I mean, it allows people to go and be like, I want this. I think this looks cool. I think this is great. And I think it puts more power in the hands of the players, and I think that's almost never a bad idea.
Here's the thing I find interesting about this whole system and the dungeon system is this. Each dungeon comes with its own armor set themed to the story of the dungeon, as well as its own weapon, a set of weapons that you can get. To give you an example, the Ascalonian Catacombs has the Ascalonian armor sets for each character class, and then the ghastly weapons that you can grab, and those will be the ones that you can use. And everything kind of together creates its own look. But the thing I find interesting is that, somewhere written here in the wiki, it says these items are no more powerful than items which can be gained during other activities in game. So it kind of takes away the point of doing dungeons, doesn't it?
No, because people want to look good.
No. It depends. Okay, I agree there. You definitely, if you like the look of an armor set, you're going to head toward that direction.
Okay.
But at the same time, I think what it does is it opens you up to play the parts of the game that you want to play. If you want the, epic, oh my god, two-hander, you don't necessarily have to go do PvE if you hate doing PvE. You can get something similar in look and similar in power. If you truly love PvP, you can get something just as good by doing PvP. So I think this directs the players in the areas that they are most interested of the game to play.
Grace, what'd you have on that?
I think that you're never going to get rid of PvE in a game because there's simply the fact of some people don't like PvP. World v. world structured, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
But they like conquering bosses. They like fighting bosses with a group of friends. They like fighting bosses with a group of strangers. And they like being rewarded for it. So they always want something to work towards. And there's many different people out there that want different things from a game and want to grind for different things. So I think there's always going to be a place for dungeons. Even if the armor isn't necessarily going to affect you later on in different areas, it's still going to be awesome to get.
Yeah, because I just can imagine us running through the world, and all of a sudden, like, let's say we're doing World PvP night, and we see this dude in this set of armor, you're like, whoa, hey, that looks really cool. Where'd you get that? Oh, well, I ran the Sorrow's Embrace dungeon 4 times and got the whole set. Oh, guess I'm going to have to go grind that out real quick, I mean, it's almost going to be like envy of look as opposed to stats, possibly.
Yeah, and this opens it up to the collectors out there, too, because, you get to a certain point, having put in several hours into a game, and a lot of people want everything that the game has to offer. So this is gonna allow those people to go in and collect all these different sets.
I really like this system, though. I like how they've got 8 dungeons, 4 iterations per dungeon. We're looking at 32 possible dungeons that someone can conquer in the first 80 levels of this game. That is absolutely amazing amounts of content to conquer for PvE. I mean, I think this is going to keep people busy for a while if they choose. Don't you guys think?
Get all the different gear, and I mean, even they wisely tied Guild Wars 2. I mean, I'm playing Guild Wars 2, which I had hardly ever looked at, but never really played, just so I can get those extra weapon sets. So, and to take in I'm playing Guild Wars 1, I should say, to get the extra weapon sets to take into Guild Wars 2. I think it's a brilliant idea. It certainly got me hooked.
Oh yeah, I think it's absolutely fun. And I love how different playthrough options are, when you get to the Explorer mode, of which there are usually 3 to choose from. The party votes on the option. So, like, literally, you can be in a group of 5 people getting ready to go do a dungeon, and you get 3 choices, and everyone has to vote on which one they want to go do. I think that's a lot of fun. I mean, at least
brings a cooperative element into it.
And then, you know what?
Star Wars, similar to it in a way.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love it. I think it's great. I think it's a lot of fun. I love this idea. I think the dungeons in this game are going to be a blast. I mean, it just gives me I'm excited about them because I want to kill a story mode. And I want to go right back and try another one. I want to see how different they are. I mean, I'm looking forward to. I mean, granted, all we can do really here is speculate. Maybe just overview what we know from other people. You know, we're not really going to be able to dive into doing a true dungeon episode until we start actually getting into the game after launch. But I gotta say, you know, this system plus all the monetary systems involved. I mean, this seems like a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of really good choices that are being made here. I haven't seen anyone else take a dungeon and say, okay, we're going to go through it one time, and then the next time we go through it, it's going to be something completely different. That's absolutely nuts. I think it's a great idea. I think it's really smart down the road.
And I think they've got a lot of good-looking gear. Just based on the drawings I've seen so far. I know with, you know, depending on the game, sometimes you get it. But when it comes to, you know, sort of a medieval feel, that kind of time period feeling to it, you get a lot of options. This one looks a little bit different than this one, and this one looks angrier and meaner, and it's got more angles, and it's red, and this thing's on fire, and that one's covered in ice, and like it just seems like you have a lot more options in terms of how things are going to look, and that's kind of cool. I'm actually excited to maybe dig into some of that stuff, but it better not get too crazy, or I won't do it.
I'm looking forward to it, except when I'm not.
Okay.
Except when I go, really? 20 hours for that? It doesn't do anything different? All right, I'm out.
20 hours? Maybe not. It looked pretty good.
I wish things only took 20 hours.
Yeah, amen.
But you know what?
Think maybe it's a status symbol too. Oh,
I believe it.
You've got all that set from Ara. Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yes, exactly. But you know, maybe this would be the case for someone like me saying, I want my gear to look different. Maybe I go and do a little microtransaction, get some different looking gear that I don't have to grind 20 hours for.
You can get a chef's costume.
I could get a chef. Oh, that sounds excellent.
I know it does.
Cooking in a chef costume. It sounds great.
You should do a PvP tournament just dressed
chef.
like the Swedish chef.
I was just going to say, the Swedish chef.
Yes.
Oh, my Lord. Let me ask you this. Grace, you're an end gamer. 3 level 80 dungeons, 4 iterations apiece. Is that going to be a good start for end game there?
It's definitely a good start. It also depends on what their turnaround time is for adding more content. Like we saw in Star Wars: The Old Republic, we had a good launch with the good 2 raids, and then they turned around and gave us another one, and then about 6 months went by without anything else.
Sure.
And before, actually, even longer than 6 months because it's still not out. So more than 6 months, and you're looking at a pretty hard sell for really not having any endgame content. People are going to have mastered that endgame content for a long time, usually. So I think for the length of time it's going to take people to reach level 80, plus the length of time it'll probably take them to master that endgame content, they're looking at a really good probably 3 months before you start having to even remotely start worrying.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, that was what I'd hope. Let me ask you this, Cash. Is there room in this game to add a more traditional 8 or 10 man raiding party?
Oh, heck yeah. There is. Like, you just got to up, you could even keep the same structure of the way the dungeons are set up now. Just got to up the difficulty level and up the rewards. Please up the rewards.
Make it something I want.
Yeah,
badly.
For example, oh my gosh, I'm checking out the there's a sword from the Twilight Arbor. Oh, I mean, I could imagine the way that thing looks. It looks like a branch that sticks out into a big old giant sword with all these vines coming off it. Imagine it like a Sylvari Guardian or something with that. Oh, hi. Just take a look at it. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. And there's a lot of pictures people can go find on the different armor sets you can get from the dungeons. And maybe that will be enough to keep people just going through and running them just to get all the different sets. Just because, I mean, that's a lot of different gear you can be wearing. I mean, granted, a lot of it will be level specific, but 3 different sets for level 80, that's a lot of different looks you can have going on there. And I could just see a bunch of medieval fashionistas running around the world.
Medieval fashionistas.
I think Ivan and Kel will be running around in their fashionista stuff.
Check out my hot pink armor. I'm hot.
Still have that picture of you in your gym shorts, you know.
Yes, I know. Grates, round us up on dungeons. Give us a final thought to take us out.
Dungeons are definitely going to be something to look at in this game. Definitely, I'm very interested in seeing how they end up playing out and how the difficulty of them is and whether or not they're over the top or, you know, medium or just really easy and you can just breeze through them. What I look for mainly in a dungeon is usually about an hour to an hour and 15 minute total run through on normal difficulty because, you know, that's about, you know, the most amount of time I'm willing to spend in a dungeon. Hardcore, not too much longer than that. And that's if you're, you know, wiping once or twice and having issues going through it because, you know, more than that, you start getting to the amount of time it takes you to raid, and a lot of people don't have time to do that. So, yeah, I'm just very looking forward to seeing how they do it and what kind of time and effort they put in and how difficult they make it.
There's a really good article I sent out to everybody on mobilesandapps.com. And the title of it just says, and I'm not even going to read any part of the article, just the title, World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2 could decrease subscriptions by 25%. That's a pretty big boast. You know, and it always seems like whenever a new MMO is going to launch, someone's got to go ahead and say, yep, this is the one that kills WoW, or alludes to it.
Yeah,
I don't believe it.
They're always wrong.
I know.
I don't think so. I think Guild Wars just has a totally different style of gameplay to it. And I think that people that are looking forward to that type of gameplay are going to go to Guild Wars. But there's always going to be the people that want that classic type of MMO experience. And they're going to stay with WoW.
I think it's impossible to tell. WoW is in the middle of the content lull. They're waiting for their new expansion to come out.
Right.
If you look at the history of World of Warcraft, every time they're waiting for a new expansion to come out, subscriptions drop. So how are you going to quantify this? It's impossible. Plus, they've been losing subscriptions for a long time.
Yeah, they dropped down to 9.1 million. Oh, noes.
Yeah, I know.
$9.1 million at $15 a month. I'll take it.
Well, let me ask you this, though. Let's not even look at just WoW, but let's look at all these other games that are out there. We got Rift, you've got Lotero, you've got Star Wars The Old Republic. There's a lot of other MMOs out there. Is Guild Wars 2 going to make a splash or maybe suck some of these guys away from there?
I guarantee you they are, and the reason that they're going to do it is because of the World v. World. Because what was the last big game that truly had a fun World v. World experience? I personally think it was Dark Age of Camelot.
I agree.
Well, that game's, you know, it's still a great game, but it's outdated. It needed a big giant refresh, and that's what Guild Wars 2 is doing, is giving it that big giant refresh. I myself am over trying to hear, you know, everybody's arguments about what's going to unseat World of Warcraft. You know what? When Star Wars: The Old Republic didn't unseat World of Warcraft, which was the only hope that I've had over the past 8 years, I do not think anything is going to, and I'm tired of hearing the argument. If something's going to, hopefully it's the silent giant that comes out of nowhere and just crushes it. But I don't want to hear it anymore because I don't think it's going to happen for a while.
my friend, but this is different. This article is alluding to something much bigger than just World of Warcraft. And I think we're kind of missing the point on this. It's not, is this a WoW killer? Is this an Activision killer? Because what they're saying is that the only revenue Activision is pulling in right now is from this. This is it. World of Warcraft is their only cash intake right now. And what this article purports is that should they lose 25% of their subscriber base for whatever reason, Elder Scrolls comes out, PlanetSide comes out, Guild Wars comes out, and between all three of those, they lose 25% of their subscription base, Activision is in trouble because they don't have any more money coming in. They have nothing, and they're pumping it out to put new content out. They might have to sell Activision. to someone else. Who knows what that does to the game of World of Warcraft, and who knows what that does to the $15 a month subscription fee. You know, I know that they've more than paid for all the content they've got on there, and they've been able to ride this out for a long time, but apparently they're pumping that money back in. And if something doesn't come out and make money out of that, and they lose a chunk of that, they're in big trouble. So now discuss with those facts in place.
I actually was listening to a different podcast. I can't remember which one it was. They were talking about that Vivendi is pulling out because it used to be valued at 18 billion, and they're at 8 billion. So they lost $10 billion recently. And you have and your biggest cash cow is World of Warcraft. There's a lot riding on this expansion as well for WoW. So, yeah, it could kill Activision. If this thing pulls 25% of the subscriptions for WoW, it could kill. WoW could actually be, we're talking about free to play.
Well, I don't think it's going to kill Activision. Let's be careful here because Activision's not going anywhere. Restructured, shaken up, sure.
Sold.
But
sold. I mean, again, not necessarily that World of Warcraft would go away, not necessarily that your $15 a month is going to go away, any of that kind of stuff. But if it gets sold and it's in somebody else's hands and they have a different vision for it, I mean, they can say, look, you know, we want to go with something new. We want you guys to create the same lightning in a bottle that you had with this game, and that's what we're going to focus on. So we're not going to develop for it anymore. It's just going to be what it is.
Well,
so
I think
you're talking about there's just, that is so nebulous, and there's so many things that could happen in that situation that, again, forget Guild Wars 2 doing it. All the MMOs that are coming out that everybody's really excited about combined. I mean, obviously they've lost a huge chunk of their subscription base already. So how much more does it have to go before Activision really is in trouble and has to look at either capital influx or selling the company to somebody else? And that's a big proposition for people that play that game.
Mike O'Brien, ArenaNet's founder, said something very profound, which said, the only thing that's going to kill WoW is WoW, the creators of WoW. That the games just, they just don't die, right?
Right.
It's going to be up to them on how they evolve, I guess.
Yep.
Because game industry and gamers, they're evolving. They're changing.
It's true. I think it's true. Grace, what do you think? What's the splash that Guild Wars 2 has on other games in the market? Is it going to hurt some people?
I think it's going to hurt more of the Star Wars, The Old Republic, Rift, those kind of games, Lord of the Rings, than it's going to hurt World of Warcraft. Because World of Warcraft has always survived these kind of hits. And while they're in the content lull right now, about a month or two after the Guild Wars 2 launches, Mists of Pandaria launches, and that's going to bring back in a huge amount of people that left World of Warcraft that leave it in the interim. So it's also going to cause a hit on Guild Wars 2. So the question is, are we going to see the hit on Guild Wars 2 make a difference to the Guild Wars 2 microtransaction base and the money that they were banking on coming in from that versus, you know, World of Warcraft actually being that affected by them leaving? I don't think World of Warcraft's going to be too affected by them leaving. They've always been a strong giant. And look, they got over 9 million subscribers right now. Come on, $15 a month. You're talking the ballpark of $100 million a month coming in.
Sure.
I'm sorry. When you make over $1 billion a year just from one title, that's not including, you know, Diablo, StarCraft, anything like that. Right. You're fine. There's not going to be an issue.
Yeah, I didn't think that. I agree with you on that. I think the funny part of that I want to talk about is this. This is my right turn, Clyde, on this, if you will. What if Guild Wars doesn't compete with any of them? Because let's be honest, you're not paying them monthly. So if I'm a World of Warcraft player or I'm a Star Wars: The Old Republic player and I'm paying $15 a month, and I got Guild Wars, well, I can have Guild Wars on my computer and play it as much as I want because they're not charging me a dime. So will they take players? I don't know. Or will they just take players' time away from a game for a minute? I mean, that's my curiosity.
Well, and that's what you're going to have to look at because in the games like Guild Wars 2 and World of Warcraft, the time is the money. and whether or not you keep your MMO subscription active, because Guild Wars 2 is working off of more of a microtransaction basis than it is the old model that they had, where you buy one and then you 6 months down the road you buy an expansion. They worked a lot off expansions back then, and they're saying they're going to get away from the model, but they're also banking then on the microtransaction model. I think that's going to where they have to keep the players engaged, and if they don't have them coming in, it's going to really hurt them.
And that was The Siege, number 3, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us this week and listening to the show. We sure do appreciate it. So let's just go ahead and tell you how you get a hold of us. Come to the website, mog-radio.com. You can check out some new articles that have been put up by our writers, Lee Starr, as well as Kel has got a new article up on PlanetSide 2 if you want to check that out. Also, you can follow us at MogRadio1 on Twitter. Email the show, mail@mog-radio.com. Get us your emails in. We're starting to just pile some up, and then we're going to do a big email show. But get your stuff in. Throw your questions out, your comments, your excitement about launch day, whatever you want. And let's just get the ball rolling. Also, here at the show, we are proud members of the Mog Nation. Cash, can you tell us how to get in touch with the Mog Nation real quick?
Absolutely. You can follow us on Twitter at MogNation Gaming. We have a Facebook group set up, and you can visit our website to join the community at www.mog-nation.com. We have a couple of Guild Wars 2 chapters set up, and one of them that I'm watching real close, the Minions of Grates Mog. I'm looking at about 10 applications a day, so it's rocking, absolutely rocking. And then also the First Order has their own Guild Wars 2 chapter, and you can reach them also on our Mog Nation site, and they also are doing extremely well. So there's a lot of hype out there. It's going to be fun.
And let me take one brief minute here, and I want to pimp something that I am doing at the Mog Nation right now. Go to mog-nation.com, sign up, be a part of the nation, and join me. I am setting up fantasy sports leagues for every sport that is offered out there, and right now we are starting fantasy football. I want people signed up. We're going to get as many people as possible put into this queue, and then we are going to pull random numbers just like we do for everything else, and 12 people will be chosen to go in and fight against their Mog Nation comrades for who is the fantasy football champion, and this is the Mog Gridiron. So go over to mog-nation.com, get signed up, and hop into my post and just put that you would like to be involved, and I will add you to the list, and we'll be doing the fantasy draft. Assuming we get enough people to sign up, the fantasy draft will be the 1st of September.
Told you we have a gambling problem.
So
also,
don't
forget to go vote for Kel's class and race on Mog Nation.
Yep, that's going really well.
And don't forget, we're going to be checking that the day of launch, Kel, before he gets into the game, he's actually going to be going to that page, checking the votes, and that's how he builds his character. So definitely get your stuff in there. You have a chance to win a free T-shirt if you pick the right class and the right race for Kel. Those are the ones he ends up choosing. So with that, we thank you for listening to The Siege this week, and we'll catch you next time on the show.
Bye.